It is Thursday, May 28th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. Oh, yeah, no, well, this one's done. Snake, this one's done. We pretty much know which teams will be playing for the Stanley Cup this year, and it will not be the Montreal Canadiens. They're down 3-1 in their series to the Carolina Hurricanes, but really, there's nothing they could do here. Carolina's just too good, let's be real. So we're going to discuss that game, and the series as a whole. Also, how the Carolina Hurricanes were able to build their bottom six. Those six players have made a huge difference in the playoffs as a whole. We're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk about the Western Conference Finals, which only lasted 4 games. Anyways, we've got some thoughts on that too, and the playoff format. Seemingly, every round gets worse. I wonder why, Gary. We're also going to talk about the Memorial Cup, of course. We know which team will be playing in the final and which teams will be battling for that last spot in the final. The World Championships are still underway. We're going to discuss that. Macklin Celebrini is a phenom, but we already knew that. And we have a mailbag question in the queue. Jam-packed show on this Thursday. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
Producer Shayne here, joined as always by my co-host Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we feeling today?
I'm doing fine, and you, Shayne?
I'm all right. Finished late with yesterday with Tony, so a little tired, but we'll power through it. I'm excited for this show. And I'm not so excited to talk about last night's game, which was not exciting at all. In fact, it was very boring. Nothing happened, and yeah, the Habs are down 3-1. They lose 4-0 on home ice. It could have been much worse, to be honest with you. I mean, Jakub Dobeš, poor guy, was just all alone. He tried his best. No one else did, apparently. Snake, I mean, yeah, the Habs clearly have no answer for Carolina's system, but it's so obvious they've got nothing left. Like, They gave everything in the first 2 rounds. They're a shell of themselves right now.
I think it's a combination of both, because Carolina is a very experienced team and their execution is near perfect. Like I said at the beginning of this series, Carolina is not my type of team.
Me neither.
As a ticket buyer, but obviously if I were the GM or the owner, I would probably love the way they play. But I prefer run and gun teams, like Colorado and Edmonton Oilers. But, those teams are gone and the Carolina Hurricanes are still around. So, yes, the Habs are tired because they play 6 more games, which is quite a lot at this time of year. But at the same time, look, you have to give credit for Carolina for what they're doing. It works.
Exactly. You may not like it. I know we don't. Their style is not very exciting. It's not a very good product, if I'm being blunt, but it's an effective one. So, again, can't really talk too much bad about it. But, I mean, the fact that the Habs made it to the Eastern Conference Final, I think is something that a lot of people are overlooking right now. I know it's I understand being in the moment and seeing the team play the way they are and without any energy and seemingly no urgency, and you're a little worried, right? But look where they are. There's only 3 teams left in the playoffs, and the Habs are one of them. And they're the youngest team in the playoffs. Like, they're ahead of schedule here. They're overachieving. So, listen, if we take a step back for a moment, I think we can rationalize and agree that what they've accomplished, which is seemingly coming to an end here pretty soon, is pretty remarkable, Snake.
Yeah, and let me ask you something, okay? let's say the Habs lose in overtime to Buffalo last week.
Yeah, in Game 7. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have to go through what we're seeing right now against Carolina. Do you think fans would have been happier?
I think it's just being in the moment right now that there's a lot of negativity. I think when, 1 month removed and, when we do our season recap show, I think we'll be able to determine that this season was a major success.
Of course.
Right? They showed some things that, blew us away and maybe were unexpected. So had they lost against Buffalo, I think it would have, left a bitter taste, because losing in overtime in Game 7, it's heartbreaking, right? I would almost rather lose in this fashion, because, they gave it their all in the first 2 rounds. Carolina's system is built for this. Like they're made, and you know what? They've gone through their fair share of losing. Okay, like they've been to the Eastern Conference Final. They've been swept. They've lost in 5 games, just as the Habs are gonna probably.
Well, they were 1-12 in conference finals games in the last 7 or 8 years. 1-12. Yeah.
If they keep making it, at one point it's gonna unlock, right? Yeah. You'd have to think they're gonna keep learning from those experiences. And let's be honest, the Habs aren't the Florida Panthers from last year. Okay,
no.
This is a bit of an easier opponent. Yeah. The circumstances as well, right? Carolina's fresh. They've played the least amount of games possible to get to the Eastern Conference Final. So everything kind of lined up well for Carolina in this series, except for Game 1. Obviously, the rust, we expected that to be a factor, and it was, but they flipped the switch in Game 2, and they haven't looked back. Me personally, I prefer this over a Game 7 overtime. Okay. I don't know about you.
Okay. Well, you always want to go further in the playoffs. If you ask Canadiens management, they would probably say the same thing as you do. You always want to win series.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody. And then at some point, it's kind of Peter's principle. You hit the wall, except for one team that wins the cup.
Exactly.
And so to me, it's not really... I don't see a problem in what's happening right now. All the great teams were either swept or eliminated in 5 games the first time that they went so far in the playoffs before becoming a great team.
Yeah.
If you look at history, I remember back in the day, the Edmonton Oilers, before their dynasty, they were swept by the Islanders in the finals for nothing. And at the time, I remember there were comments about, Wayne Gretzky is a choker, and they're never gonna win. They don't know how to tighten up the game, because the Edmonton Oilers were they were playing a wide open game. Every game was like 5-4, 6-5. And I remember the comments. And then the year after, they beat the Islanders and they won their first cup. So that's one example from a long time ago. But I think it stands the test of time, this thing.
That's it.
The Pittsburgh Penguins with Crosby and
and they lost to Detroit.
And Jordan Stahl, believe it or not. Jordan Stahl, a million years ago. They lost in the first round the first time they made the playoffs. I'm not sure. I think it was against Ottawa. And I think this is the year Ottawa went to the finals against Anaheim. Okay, when Anaheim won their only cup. So, that's another example 20 years later, 20 years ago. But the list goes on. Tampa Bay was eliminated by Columbus.
In 4.
You remember that?
Of course. Tortorella behind the bench.
Yeah. So, you can go back to the 1980s and into the present. You're always going to see that. So I know I know for Habs fans, it's disappointing that it wasn't closer, because people were really pumped up, especially after Game 1 that they won. Yeah. But it was to be expected. Look, the series is not over, so it ain't over till it's over. But it's going to be hard for the Habs to win 3 games. Remember, I had said Carolina in 5. We'll see if this happens or not. But it's going to be hard for the Habs to win 3 games. And Carolina, Vegas in the finals. We'll talk about it at some point when it's all said and done. Am I excited about this matchup? Not really. Not really. I like the Golden Knights. I like the Golden Knights more than I do the Hurricanes, honestly. Because, Marner, Eichel, I like these players, Shea Theodore. But they've played a style that is not that exciting either in the playoffs.
No.
They really, really shut down the Colorado Avalanche. So, a final between Colorado and Montreal would have been a dandy.
Yeah.
Because, even though I think Colorado would have won probably, in 4 or 5 games, but we'll never know. But the point is, it would have been more fun. But you know what? We could be surprised. 2 teams that play the same style, can 2 wrongs make a right? Could it be good?
I don't know.
I honestly, Shayne, I don't think, and it's every year it's the same thing when the local team is gone, but ratings really go down. And I'm curious to see in the month of June, when the weather gets better, what the ratings are going to be for that series.
Snake, this might be the least watched Stanley Cup final in recent years.
Yeah.
I personally, I have no vested interest in watching those 2 teams play. I'll do it for the show, but
it's the Stanley Cup Finals. But I would have liked even Colorado, Carolina. I would have preferred.
Yeah,
at least you get to see the Avalanche. And but look, we'll see. Like I say, it's very unpredictable. Maybe we'll end up saying it was a dud, but maybe we'll end up saying, hey, that series was good, because the matchups were good. You never know. It could go to 7-game overtime, 7-game. We'll see. But I preferred the Edmonton, Florida finals of the last 2 years, honestly.
Not even close. Not even close. Listen, we'll circle back on the potential final matchup because it's not set just yet. The Habs would have to win 3 games in a row, however, which is highly unlikely. So, even the most optimistic fan is probably expecting a round of golf coming up pretty soon for the Habs. But
unless Dobeš,
look, this guy's incredible. He was easily, by far, not even close, their best player in these playoffs. Probably the reason they made it this far. So we'll talk about that guy in the offseason. The ceiling, the long-term plan, maybe the contract extension coming up for him. But for now, Snake, I'd like to talk about the Canadiens' opponent, the Carolina Hurricanes, because as we mentioned, they're here for a reason. Okay. They got rid of Ottawa pretty easily. They got rid of Philadelphia pretty easily. They're about to get rid of the Habs pretty easily. And the reason for that, I would say, is not only their system, but it's their depth. They can roll 4 lines. They can roll 3 pairings at will. Rod doesn't have to look at matchups. He doesn't have to change his lines. He just goes, you're up, you're up, you're up, you're up. And it works. Now, in order to have depth, you need to have a good bottom 6.
Yeah.
The Carolina Hurricanes bottom 6, even though it might not be the sexiest, it's damn effective. You got the 3rd line of Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, and Nikolai Ehlers. Great compliments to each other, very effective. The 4th line of Jankowski, Robinson, and Carrier, that's a pain in the ass. Pain in the ass, and guess what? They're contributing offensively as well.
Yes.
So, now the question begs to be asked. How did the Carolina Hurricanes build that bottom 6? Was it through the draft? Was it through free agency? Was it through trades? Let's break it down, Snake.
Yeah, we're going to start with the 4th line. But as a preamble, very, very often I discuss in my French podcast and with you on Trust the Process how things are built and how teams should approach the draft.
Yeah.
And I get the question, if you want to get a William Carrier or a Jankowski or a Martinook, why don't you just draft them? Okay, that's the tricky part, because all these players at some point were productive junior stars. They were offensive players. I was with Cape Breton when William Carrier was there. He was on our top line. He was an offensive player with grit. So I think they're very hard to identify at the draft. And as you will see, 3 of those 6 guys were first round picks. And 2 others were late second round picks. And one of them was undrafted, Robinson. But at the time of the draft, how could you know if they would be able to adapt to being a bottom 6 player? Mark Jankowski, for example, was a prep star at Stansted College. And he was drafted in the first round. I think we all knew, Calgary. I think we all knew that Jankowski was not going to become an offensive star in the NHL.
Yeah.
But he could have been out of the league at some point. He was sent back to the minors. And at some point, he kind of reinvented himself. And that's how he became that effective fourth liner with Calgary. But the floor is littered with players who don't adapt and end up in the American Hockey League, in the ECHL, or in Europe, or back home, doing something else with their lives. And one thing that you have to avoid when you draft, you cannot draft a junior bottom 6 player thinking he's going to become an NHL bottom 6 player.
There you go. Yeah.
If you show those traits in junior hockey, you're not going to make it.
No.
Because all the guys that we're going to talk about at some point were scorers. So let's run it down. I talked about Carrier. Chosen 57th overall, late second round pick by the Blues in 2013. Was traded to Buffalo. Went to Vegas when they started out. Won the Cup with Vegas. Became an unrestricted free agent in July 2024. Carolina signed him. Long-term contract. Very reasonable price. $2.15 million per year. Probably my favorite fourth liner in the NHL in the last few years. I mean, the guy is relentless.
He's built for this, yeah.
He's cocky. He's everything you want in a fourth liner. And he also contributes offensively, You can see shades of what he was in junior hockey in terms of offense sometimes. He and Nicolas Roy were great in Vegas. And Nicolas Roy was also an offensive star in junior hockey. He actually was the number 1 pick overall in the Q in 2013. Mark Jankowski. Mark Jankowski was a star midget AAA player. And he instead of going to junior hockey in Ontario, he went to Stansted College in Quebec. And Stansted College, with all due respect, I mean, is not the Q.
No.
And there are some good players coming out of there that we draft for the Q. They play in the Q. They're very good. But the guy went directly from Stansted College to basically being drafted in the first round. That was a shocker. He was drafted 21st overall by Calgary in 2012. Played for quite a few teams. Then in March 2025, he was traded by Nashville to Carolina for a 5th round pick. That's it. 5th round pick.
Man.
Eric Robinson went undrafted. He was pretty much an unknown prospect at the time. Went to college. Then, signed with Columbus, if I recall. But finally, he was signed at the same time as William Carrier, July 2024 by Carolina. $1.7 million a year. I think he got a contract extension. But basically, their bottom 6 is costing them $5.7 million. Roughly under $2 million per player. And they're getting... They're fourth liners, but I would say, they're not third liners, but I would say they're like 3.5.
Tweeners, yeah.
They're tweeners. They're 3.5.
And now, Sink, if I may add, to that fourth line, Will Carrier is 31. Mark Jankowski's 31. Eric Robinson is 30. That paints a picture right there.
Yes, there you go. Because it takes a while before these players find their chair, their identity in the NHL. They are mature men who know their role perfectly. So, that's something to consider when you build a team. And they don't cost that much. 2 free agents, a 5th-round pick, less average $2 million a year. Wow. And you didn't have to draft them. You didn't have to, because I always think that at the draft, you go for pure talent only.
Oh, of course.
Just pure talent. Then you know what? You sort it out.
Or you trade that player for these types of guys.
Buffalo did it. Matthew Savoy and the guy was traded Peterka was traded for Josh Doan. So you get Doan and Ryan McLeod.
Yeah.
But it started out with 2 skilled players. But we didn't know if Josh Doan, as a second rounder at the time, was going to become Josh Doan. We didn't know if Ryan McLeod was going to be able to make it because he was a very fast skater, almost as fast as McDavid. But the rest of his game was kind of all over the map.
Yeah.
But he developed into a very, very good third-line center. So that's the point. Now let's get to the third line. Jordan Martinook, drafted 58 overall, late second round by Phoenix at the time, the Arizona Coyotes that became the Utah Mammoth, in 2012. Then he was traded to Carolina a long time ago, 8 years ago, in May 2018 for Marcus Kruger, who's not playing anymore, and a 3rd-round pick. Martinook makes $3.1 million a year. So, that's a guy, another one, who is not 22 years old either.
No, 33 for him.
33. Jordan Staal. Probably, look, I wouldn't say the most talented, because there's also Nick Ehlers, but I would say the most well-rounded player. Jordan Staal was chosen number 2 overall by Pittsburgh 20 years ago. And then at some point, it was weird because Crosby and Malkin were ahead of him. So he was seen as Pittsburgh's number 3 center. There were talks about putting him on the wing so he can be a top 6 player because he does have offensive skills, but they decided against it and they said, okay, this is going to be our luxurious third line center. Probably the best third-line center in the league. That's what they were thinking at the time. That's what he became. But in 2012, Penguins had been eliminated, and they wanted to shake the barricade a little bit. And I think Staal wanted to play with his brother Eric at the time. I think it's been 14 years, so I don't remember every detail. But in June 2012, he was traded to Carolina for Brendan Sutter, a depth player. Brian Dumoulin, a defenseman still playing, another depth defenseman, and the number 8 overall pick at the time in 2012, which was considered a weak draft. So obviously, Pittsburgh passed on a guy like Philip Forsberg, who was chosen 3 picks later. They passed on Andrei Vasilevsky, but they took Derek Pouliot. Derek Pouliot was the typical offensive defenseman who couldn't play defense. And like we've discussed a lot on Trust the Process, these guys, you never know. These offensive guys who can't play defense, some of them make it, some of them don't. It's always a risk. Pouliot, up and down, NHL, AHL, never really established himself. So Staal has been there for a while too, just like Martinook. And then the third guy on the third line is kind of a head scratcher because he's the highest paid Hurricane, I think.
Right under Aho.
Right under Aho. You're right.
He's the second. Yeah.
Nick Ehlers, 8.5. He was signed last year as a free agent. He was a 9th pick overall by Winnipeg in 2014. So now, why is he on the third line? Well, he was always a third liner, even in Winnipeg. And the guy, he usually a third liner, you get like, they're called a checking line. This guy's kind of an anomaly because he is nothing. He is nothing of a checker. but he plays with Stahl and Martinic. And I think he brings offense to that third
Complement
line.
each other. Yep.
They complement each other. Why isn't he playing top six? Well, not only because Carolina has a strong top six, but also because he's not a big guy. He's not overly tough. And I think whenever he was on the top six in Winnipeg, I found that he was pretty outmatched by the opposition. So the third line, I know he's an expensive third liner, but you know what? You can afford an 8.5 guy on the third line. If he plays on the power play, he gets 71 points like Ehlers did. And you have a bunch of guys like Stahl at $3 million, Martinic at $3 million. So basically your bottom six is costing you a little bit under $21 million. That's fantastic. So you can afford a guy like Ehlers because Ehlers is also very good on the power play with the top line.
Yeah.
And so look, it's kind of it's a near perfect bottom six when you think about it in terms of salary cap management, in terms of production, in terms of style of play. Now, how long is it going to last? These guys are all in their 30s.
That's
all
it.
of them. So it's not going to be, look, it's not going to last 5 years. But for now, it's they really do a great job. Last year they were in the conference finals. They just faced the Florida Panthers, but they added to it. You know, they added to it Jankowski and Ehlers, and now they found it's the perfect storm basically.
Exactly.
So you see, the conclusion is that bottom six players, it's a process that you build over time. But you don't need to draft these players because if you do, fine. But they're extremely hard to identify on draft night. And when we talk about the draft, because next few weeks we're going to talk about the draft a lot. And I'm going to pinpoint some of these guys who could possibly become great bottom six players. But to me, you're really throwing darts. Because if the guy shows bottom six traits right away as a junior player, you're starting to wonder, is he at least going to make it?
Yeah.
So it's very hard to guess what a player's role will be 10 years down the road. I mean, you know that McDavid, is going to be your star first liner. But if you draft a guy like Jankowski, for instance, honestly, I didn't know what to make of it because I was thinking, wow, the guy plays in a very a weak caliber hockey for compared with the NHL, but the guy made it. But he didn't make it the way he was as a junior player.
Look, it's a funny discussion and worth having clearly because Carolina's bottom six has, done a great job, and so has Montreal's through 3 rounds. The bottom six, which is a weird sort of Frankenstein bottom six because there's players there that maybe shouldn't play. There's players in the top six that shouldn't be in the top six. Regardless, you know what I mean. Bottom six players on the Habs have done a good job in these playoffs, but clearly Carolina's got the formula. And listen, we're having this discussion, and I know Habs fans are going to be like, well, what about us? What about this team? Do they have the pieces? Do they have what's coming up maybe? So let's talk about that for a quick second here, because Philippe Danault, $5.5 million for 1 more year. He's 33. I think he's a fine bottom six player.
Yes.
I'd take him on my team any day of the week.
Yeah.
Josh Anderson, $5.5 million for 1 more year. Again, 32. I'd take him on my bottom six any day of the week. Jake Evans, currently playing as the second line center. But we both agree.
Yeah.
We both agree that he is a bottom six center. 29 years old. He's got 3 years left at $2.85 million. Again, would take him on my bottom six any day of the week.
That's it.
Anyone else? Listen, really. No disrespect to guys like Alex Texier, not exactly built for a bottom six, right? Kirby Dach, he's not built for a bottom six. He's just not. No. Zach Bolduc, maybe down the road. Right now he's 23. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I
have to carve out that niche for him.
Yeah.
But I could see that happening maybe as a third liner, right? Chovaleno, plug and play kind of guy, doesn't really get a ton of minutes, no big responsibilities. I mean, really, they only currently have 3 guys that you're very comfortable with having on your bottom 6. The rest are kind of just, we'll play that guy there, I guess.
Yeah, Kapanen. Yeah, because I think for a guy like Kirby Dach, who is 25 years old now, he's not old, but he's not young either. This is a guy who at some point will probably have to really reinvent himself because he's not a top 6 player. Okay, I know he was the number 3 pick overall. I know he's tall and I know all this, but he's not productive enough. He's not. The question is now, can he be an effective guy like the Carolina guys are? And that's what I meant when I just said you have to find your identity. And if you don't find your identity, you're going to bounce from one team to the other, and at some point you're going to be out of the league. So obviously Kirby Dach, for instance, if he becomes a bottom 6 player, he's not going to make $5-6 million a year. But at least he's going to have a career for the next 7, 8, 9 years. Otherwise, what do you do with this guy? And the same goes for a guy like Texier. It's a different situation. I mean, he was waived by St. Louis. I think he had some good moments in the playoffs.
He did.
But with the Habs at some point, he was sent back
first line
to the press box. Yeah, first line press box.
First line and then press box.
Yeah, I think it's all about consistency. And Texier, I found, was never consistent throughout his career. And what you need from bottom 6 players is consistency.
Exactly.
And usually consistency is not really in terms of production. It's in terms of effort. But a guy like Texier, he doesn't have the mentality of that bottom 6 player. So what do you do with him? You see, that's, like you say, it's a little bit of a Frankenstein thing.
Yeah.
Kapanen, look, it's, I mentioned at some point maybe third line winger, scoring winger. Look, you give him one more chance next year, maybe in a better situation than he was this year. Although at times it was good because he was scoring goals thanks to Demidov, but really it's not his spot. Second line center is not his spot. No. Top 6 is not his spot. But at some point, this is another guy who might find himself, okay, I'm probably better off in Europe. And, score, make good money and score 50, 60 points a year. It's a work in progress. Carolina, as you see, 2 of these guys have been there for a while, but the other 4 were acquired recently within the next 2 years. And I think these guys, when I say you can find them anywhere, I don't mean that there's necessarily tons of them, but what I mean is that they are easier to acquire than a second line center.
Yeah.
Okay, second line centers, I mean, I see articles about this now, the Habs should do this, the Habs should do that. Yeah, but who's going to be available?
Mm-hmm. And what's the price?
Yeah, and if a team that is not necessarily going for the cup, but that is on the way up, wants to trade a second line center, they better get something in return and not just prospects. Mm-hmm. So you have to basically hope that there is a rebuilding team that will be willing to part with the second line center because they're thinking 2033 right now.
That's it.
The way Chicago was thinking, 20 whatever, when they traded Doc, DeBrincat, and Brendan Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a little bit of luck. I remember Marc Bergevin saying, first line centers are very hard to find. And then people would give examples of, but this guy was traded. This guy became a free agent. Yeah, but at some point you're not necessarily a good match with the team that is trading that player. Fortunately for the Habs now, they have more depth in terms of prospects than they did 10 years ago. And we'll get to it in the mailbag question, by the way, because it's an interesting one. And so you see, I mean, so I don't know what else to say about the bottom six, but I think it's a work in progress. And I think as the Habs progress, every summer, there will be opportunities to add to this and change the mix. However, it has to be a priority and not just plug in guys like Texier. Oh, there's injuries. Let's get Texier off waivers. Let's give him a contract. Okay, that's a little. I'm not saying they were improvising, but I would say that you have to be more. You have to have now that Habs have reached the Final Four, you have to have a more structured look at what the roster will like, because the Habs are very close to contending.
Yeah, few pieces away, exactly.
Like Carolina was very close to contending, although they were trashed by the Panthers. They figured, okay, let's add Ehlers, let's add Jankowski. Let's see what happens. They and the Habs right now, they have to start thinking, okay, what's going to be my bottom six for the next 2-3 years? And not just a rotation of players just hoping that you're going to throw things on the wall and it's going to stick.
Yeah.
Or taking top six guys who are not really top six players and don't fit in a bottom six.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Snake, my last question to you on the topic here is regarding the Habs prospect pool, because a lot of people see players such as Florian Jackguy, a very popular name, right? A guy like maybe Luke Tuck, Tyler Thorpe, maybe a Logan Sawyer, and they see those guys as, oh yeah, that's going to be a bottom six guy. Do you agree with that notion? Or
I think most of them will not.
Yeah.
However, I think some of them do deserve a chance to prove that they could be. I like Logan Sawyer, but he's going back to college for his third season. I would have brought him to Laval, but anyway, hopefully he comes next year. Florian Jackguy, 2 seasons in Laval, showed potential for as a bottom six player. Had a cup of coffee in Montreal. But again, how long do you want to wait for these guys before you? Because the first thing you have to determine before saying that a guy is a bottom six player, you have to determine, is he an NHL player, first of all?
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all,
exactly.
First and foremost, are you an NHL player? Once it's established that you're an NHL player, then you find your role. So yeah, they are candidate. Luke Tuck, I don't think so. I don't see an NHL player in Luke Tuck. Tyler Thorpe, I don't know. He's big, but we'll see. Florian, at least he could score goals and he's tough. I like him. Sawyer, I just mentioned. But if you're going to go for the cup, you can't really bank on guys like these, especially like you said, Shayne. And it was a very good point. Look at the age of this bottom six.
There you go.
And look at the age of the bottom six players in Florida. It's very
and
rare
Vegas.
And Vegas. It's very rare you're going to find a bottom six that is loaded with 21, 22-year-old players. I mean, you can have one, because they're energetic and it does happen that teams will have what they call a kid line. I like having a kid line, but you can't have six. You can't. Basically, you know what? You can't look at the prospect list and build a 20-player roster based on the prospects. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you study rosters over the years of top teams, of the last 10, 15, 20 years, I do this constantly, honestly. I'm a little bit obsessed with this because... but I'll tell you why. Because I want to see what mistakes I made when I evaluate players from the start. And I always like to go back and say, why did I see this guy so low or so high? And what happened in between? Because then it teaches you, you learn every day. I've been following this for since 1973. And I learn every day about players and rosters and roster building. And I've changed my mind about certain things over the years. And one thing that I used to do was to look at a prospect pool and say, okay, within 5 years, we have our 20 players. Prospects become suspects very quickly. So I do value prospects. I love analyzing prospects. I love the draft. And I do think that you have to build through the draft. But at some point, you cannot bank on these guys for all, like they say, always hitting their mark or their ceiling. It's not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So look, the message to Habs fans, don't get too attached to the players or the prospects, because there's going to be some movement there. I can guarantee you that. So listen, whether or not some of these prospects do carve out a role in the bottom six, time will tell. Some of them may be more suited than others. I think Florida Jack Guy is a good example of that, because obviously he has the traits, but also, Snake, you mentioned the mindset, right? You kind of have to carve out your own niche. And this season in Laval, I thought he was, credit to Pascal Vincent for that as well. But I mean, he was better on faceoffs. He was playing the penalty kill. He was a net front guy on the power play, right? He's making himself useful in many different areas. And I think that's what you need from a bottom six guy. So he's one that I'm encouraged by. But again, there's going to be moves. There's going to be trades. Don't get attached. Snake, we're going to move along here. But before we do, I want a quick word from our partners, Cheapest T-shirts.
Stop overpaying. Buying t-shirts, hoodies, or blank apparel? Same brands, same products. Lower prices. No minimums. Buy one or 1,000, same price. Fast Canada shipping. Multiple warehouses. Stop overpaying. Visit cheapesttshirts.ca.
We thank Cheapest T-shirts and our good friend Nick for being partners here with us at the Sick Podcast. Trust the process.
I'm wearing one, by the way.
It's so good. It's great. It's genuinely great quality. Yeah. I mean, the name Cheapest T-shirts is only about the price. Like, it's very affordable and great quality. So shout out to them, and a shout out to Betway as well, who have been with us since the very beginning. Don't select the bust with Betway and get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. We said we'd circle back to the Western Conference Final and the likely Stanley Cup Final that we're going to have. But a quick word on the Vegas Golden Knights. Listen, they're not my cup of tea at all. I'm pretty outspoken about my disdain for this team. And it's personal. It's very much personal. It's like, listen, Marc-André Fleury was my favorite non-Hab player when he played, and the way they handled that, I could never forgive them. So don't like the way that organization is run, but got to give credit where credit is due. They've made it to the Stanley Cup Final by beating the 1 seed in 4 games. Like, that's an impressive feat, Snake.
Yeah, and they were 7-0-3 in the last 10 games. And I remember Elliot Friedman coming out with some stat many, many years ago saying that, and I don't know if it's Freeman, but anyways, an insider came up with stats that if you wanted to find the Stanley Cup winner, look at the last 20 games of the season and see who performs well.
Yep.
And almost every year, that team was at or near the top in the last 20 games. And Vegas was 7-0-3. They fired Bruce Cassidy. It was a late change, really. I've never seen such a late change in the history of the NHL. And it worked. Will it work for many years? We've seen that Tortorella, usually it doesn't. But the first few months, it does work, and so far it has. And they play a very tight style of hockey. They're not the team. They're not the same kind of team that won the Cup 3 years ago. I think, they do have very good offensive players, with Marner and Eichel and Stone and Dorofeyev. But the ship is very tight, I would say. And that's what happened with Colorado. Carter Hart has been very good also. Who would have thought after a 2-year absence? They took a gamble on the only one of the 5 guys who were on trial. Of the 5 guys, he's the only one who got an NHL contract, and he came back, and now he's doing very well. So look, it seems like it's a management team that doesn't really care.
Ruthless.
They're ruthless. Yep. They don't care about people. They don't care about anything. They don't care about what people think. They're there to win. And whether or not we agree with how they operate, because as you know, we're not inside the organization. We just go with what we see from the outside. And but they, 3 Stanley Cup finals in 9 years.
It's undeniable.
Yeah, within the rules, within the rules.
Of course.
Because you remember the salary cap manipulation that they were doing, putting guys on LTIR, and, they trade all these first round picks. They go against the flow, really. They only have 1 guy left from the first round in the last 9 drafts that they had. It's Trevor Connolly.
Yeah.
He's a black ace right now. He's a black ace. He's not going to play in the finals unless there's a rash of injuries. But only Trevor Connolly. It might be a matter of time before one of my favorite prospects of all time gets traded.
Oh, look, we may not agree with how they run their team, but the success is what matters at the end of the day, and they've had success. You can also attribute that to the expansion draft, and my goodness, I mean, the teams weren't ready for that, and Vegas were.
But didn't start out that way, because they were accumulating picks.
They didn't think it would hit
well
as it did, and then they found out. We're like, wait a minute, they wanted us to take William Karlsson, like they wanted us to take Shayne. Like, okay, sure, we'll keep him, and we'll build a contending team. Like, and I mean, the Jack Eichel thing, that's one that's going to be in the history books as a generation fumble.
They used their assets, to get a player who had like a dispute with Buffalo regarding his operation, and his career was in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo managed quite well. They got Alex Tuck, they got Peyton Krebs, they got Noah Ostlund with that first round pick. I mean, they salvaged something out of it. But really,
they could have had Jack Eichel.
Eichel should have been a Buffalo saver, for 10, 15 years.
Come on.
But Vegas pounded on it. Yeah. Some argue that it's easy to attract players to Vegas. Yeah, it is. It is. That is correct. Okay, they have almost like an unfair advantage over lots of teams. But they do go for these players. So, yeah, Mitch Marner signed over there, of course, But so that's kind of probably related to the fact that they're able to attract players because it's Vegas. But at the same time, if they had been in last place for 9 years, I'm not sure players would necessarily want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an attractive destination. They always have a good team, and they pay good money. And taxes are very low, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way the system works. And I'm sure Gary Bettman is very happy because it opened, and the sports world is probably very happy because it opened the floodgates. The Raiders moved from Oakland to Vegas. The A's are moving from Oakland to Vegas too. So the 2 Oakland teams are going to be playing in Vegas. And they're talking about an NBA franchise because they started the process of adding 2 more teams in the NBA. And they said, we're only focusing on Vegas and Seattle, which is, by the way, what the NHL did without telling us.
Yeah.
Making us believe that Quebec City or Houston or Atlanta was going to be part of the process. No, it was Vegas and Seattle. Maybe other cities like Vegas and Atlanta and Houston will be next. But at the time, Vegas was a very popular destination. A lot of people thought it wasn't going to work because they said, oh, it's a small town, which is true in terms of population. It's a small market, and it's only got to be tourists. And basically, they want to have season ticket holders. People will don't know hockey. They don't care. Look, it's packed.
Oh, yeah. But it's undeniable. It's a success, slam dunk. I just wish Seattle had the same success. I'm never gonna let them go. I'm never gonna let them go. I am Seattle's number one not hater. I love Seattle, but doubter, detractor. I don't know what kind of word you want to use.
You're 25, Shayne. Okay, at some point they're going to be good.
I just
they have another high draft pick this year. They have another top 10 pick this year. We'll see.
Yeah, and then they're going to sign some 34-year-old to a $7 million contract.
Yes.
Anyways, I hate the way they do it. Okay, moving along now. Snake to the Memorial Cup.
Yes.
The Kitchener Rangers go undefeated, and they will be playing in the final against either Chicoutimi or Everett. That's that. I don't want to call it a semifinal matchup, but anyways. That matchup goes on, I believe, tomorrow. Is it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. It's Friday night. Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And the final is going to be on Sunday night at 7. So if the Habs are eliminated Friday night, well, that'll leave plenty of TV time, for the Memorial Cup, because there would be no NHL games on that evening. So they're probably praying that the Canadian-Carolina series ends tomorrow for ratings. Lyndon Dupont was not playing right now. Yesterday night, okay, he was scratched because of an injury, and I think if he doesn't play tomorrow night, Chicoutimi has a better chance of winning the game. If he plays, I think it's going to be Everett against Kitchener, which was pretty logical when we did the order of the teams. Kelowna was never in the game. They, as a host city, they were not able to build a strong enough team to justify their presence. No. It's too bad. Sometimes the host team is very, very good. This time it was not up to par. When you get awarded the Memorial Cup, usually a year and a half, 2 years in advance, you have to do everything you can to build a strong team. But look, they didn't. I think it should be an interesting game against Everett tomorrow for Chicoutimi. Mm-hmm. And Kitchener, look, it's the Ontario League. It's the best junior league in the world. They were not the best team this year in the Ontario Hockey League, but it looks like they're going to be very, very hard to beat. They beat Everett in the round-robin game. If they play Everett again, who knows? But they're very, very they're very solid.
Yeah, easily the favorite heading into the final. But anything can happen. That's the beauty of the Memorial Cup.
It's one game.
Yeah. Tune in tomorrow night to see who will be facing the Kitchener Rangers, and then Sunday is the final. The big trophy will be awarded. Speaking of tournament, Snake, the World Championships. We're on to the elimination rounds finally.
Yeah.
Canada's playing the USA as we are recording this show, so we do not know the final result.
No,
however,
2-0. It's 2-0. Dylan Holloway, Macklin Celebrini scoring.
Yeah.
I think Canada will win the gold medal on Sunday. That's going to be Sunday afternoon. So if you guys want to watch some good hockey before the Habs game, if there's a Habs game, or the Memorial Cup. So Sunday, two winners will be known. Mm-hmm. The World Champions and the Memorial Cup champions. I think Canada's going to win the gold medal. They have a very good team.
Yeah.
They pretty much cruise through the first round, and the States don't have a very good team.
Horrible.
I like James Higgins, what he did, all things considered, but overall they really don't have a good team. Canada has Celebrini, they have Crosby, they have Scheifele, Holloway. It's not Olympic caliber. But I think that team would have fared very well at the Olympics also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. I know it's an under-the-radar tournament at the end of May because of the NHL playoffs, and also because, it's not really best on best when you think about it. But I'm curious to see how Ivar Stenberg will do because he's pretty much... Look, you saw that goal that he scored the other day.
Everybody saw that goal. That was incredible.
Yeah. You saw that goal. And they're playing Sweden this afternoon. Switzerland this afternoon. Switzerland probably
Top
the
team.
biggest, the surprise of the tournament. They ran the table. I mean, my God. So it's good for hockey. I like seeing that. I like seeing, teams like that get better, because, the more good players we have for the NHL, the better it is, because there's probably going to be 2 more teams added within the next few years. We need good players from everywhere in the world. And so Stenberg and Viggo Bjork, 2 first-rounders, 2 future first-rounders, really, really more than held their own. In that tournament against NHL players. And Stenberg, I mean, what a decision the Leafs will have to make. Because on one hand, you have a possible 100-point scorer. And on the other hand, you have a guy who's a complete player, might not be as offensive as the other one.
Shows up in every tournament.
More of a sure thing to play a well-rounded game. But there's also, Gavin McKenna, he could be Patrick Kane. I think it's probably the best comparable, because I remember that when Patrick Kane was drafted 19 years ago, everything negative that is being said about McKenna was being said about Patrick Kane. He plays on the perimeter and he's small. He's on, although McKenna is a little bit taller, but still, they're not big players, And, but Patrick Kane won a scoring championship, I think. Didn't he win the Artros at least once?
Probably.
Look, he got tons of points. He won the Cup 3 times. He's still not a bad player, He's approaching 40 now, but he's still not a bad player. So, interesting decision for the Leafs. I think they're going to go for McKenna, because like I said to Tony yesterday, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But Stenberg is really something else. I think he could play in the NHL next year, because he's going to turn 19. He's a late birthday. I think he could play in the NHL next year. Who knows where he'll end up? Will he go number 2 to San Jose? Will he go number 3 to Vancouver? Or perhaps will he drop to number 4 to Chicago? And if he does, it's probably the best. Well, the best scenario for him is playing with Celebrini, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think he would be better off in Chicago than Vancouver.
Bedard and Frundell. Ooh, that'd be good.
Exactly. So interesting to see. I hope Sweden makes it as far as possible so we can see him. Canada Sweden would be fun. Would be a fun final game, gold medal game on Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah, the draft talk is heating up.
Yeah.
We have the debate for first overall. This is something that we haven't had for the last 3 years, right? It was Schaefer, it was Celebrini, it was Bedard. There was no question about it. This year there is. So we're going to do that on this show. We're going to debate. We're going to look at all the possible outcomes and options for this draft once the playoffs are over. Maybe even before. We'll see. But listen, we're 1 month away. Actually, we're technically less than 1 month away from the draft. So, it's crunch time. We're going to get lists going. We're going to get the draft talk going. This is the place to be. If you like that stuff, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And, keep Gavin McKenna away from taxis. If you know, you know. Anyways. Snake, it's time now to go digging in the mailbag. We have one great question in the queue today, and this one is coming from Sly Daddy 16. Hey guys, thanks for the great podcast. Thank you. Here's a question for you. You're Kent Hughes, draft day in June, and Stan Bowman approaches you and tells you McDavid wants to play for the Habs for his remaining 2 years of his cap, much affordable, $12.5 million. In order to get McDavid, Bowman asks you for Zurofsky, Hage, Reinbacher, Fowler, and the Habs' first pick in 2026, which will likely be the 29th, I believe.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable. What do you answer if you're Kent Hughes? Accept or not? And why would you or not make this trade? Snake, I'll let you answer in a quick second here, but Sly Daddy, Stan Bowman would get carpet burn from my hand as I go to shake it. Okay, this is an easy yes for me.
Okay, I was gonna ask you first.
Okay, I'm gonna
So
cut.
it's a
Listen, I'm gonna
yes.
cut right to the chase. It's not even. I don't even take a
Okay,
second to think
but
about. Yes, yes.
Okay, tell me why. Tell me why. I'm interested.
Okay,
Because I already have my answer.
Yeah.
So obviously, if I don't agree with you, I don't agree. If I agree, I agree.
to me,
What's your
this
reasoning
is
behind this?
So simple.
Yeah.
Only one of the players mentioned here has played a few games in the NHL, and that's Jakub Fowler, right? And Jakub Fowler, by the way, as great as he'll probably be, you got Jakub Dobeš. It's not like you're restrained in terms of goaltending. Now, Swarovski and Hage have amazing upside and potential. Neither has played a game in the NHL. Reinbacher's played like 2 or 3, and the first pick is going to be at the end of the first round. This is such an easy decision. Listen. Obviously, Edmonton, I think, would ask for a whole lot more, especially for 2 years left of McDavid. If there was 1 year left, I still don't think it would be enough, but maybe a little bit more. But for 2 years, I think they're at least wanting a roster player that's, an established NHLer.
Okay, I don't have much to say because that's pretty much what I think, but I'll add a few things. I'll add a few things to what you said. First of all, yeah, I do think that Edmonton, in that type of trade, whoever they do the trade with, if they do the trade within a year or two, they're going to ask for an established player. None of these guys are established. Okay, as good as they are as prospects, they are not established players. Second of all, I'm sure people are going to chime in the comment section about this. But because Shayne, that we're going to get comments from people who like prospects, the way we do. We love prospects. And who are going to say, that's way too much because then the Canadiens' future is down the toilet if McDavid leaves in 2 years. We might get that comment. And I understand the argument.
Yeah.
But my answer to this is that the Habs already have young players. They're the youngest team in the league. And Hage, Reinbacher, and company, they're pretty much gravy. And they're also a few years away from contributing. Hage is going back to college. He's going to be a rookie in 27, 28. He might not be contributing before 28, 29, or even 2030. Same with Swarovski.
Yeah.
Okay? When I say contributing, I mean being an impact player. The way, Slavkovsky is, and Suzuki is, and Caulfield is. Because if you look at Demidov, he's learning. He was great. I think he was the second best rookie in the league this year. But you can't say that his impact is super major on the Habs right now. And it's normal. I think one day it'll be. I think he's going to be a 90-point player. But for now, he's not. And had this trade been suggested maybe 3 years ago, I would have said, well, that's kind of risky because even with a McDavid, the Habs might make the playoffs and win a round. But now the Habs are in the Final Four. Whether it's because of Dobeš or not, whatever, they are in the Final Four. And now it's time to pull the trigger on something, even if it's only for 2 years. Because those next 2 years, there's a window. Tampa, Buffalo, will Florida come back? Boston is not there yet. Carolina's beatable. Toronto, Philadelphia. I mean, in the Eastern Conference, there's no powerhouse, like Tampa was 5-6 years ago. So the window's open. And like you said, you're not giving away any roster player except for Fowler, who's the backup goalie right now. And again, with these prospects, are they all going to hit? And Suzuki is 26, Caulfield is 25. At some point, you have to do something, with the roster that you have right now. And remember, if you put in a McDavid, every centerman goes down one notch.
Suzuki would be your second. Think about that.
Exactly. And Jake Evans goes back to number 4. Imagine how many goals Caulfield would score with McDavid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So he's one of the best players ever. He's still in his prime. You might only have him for 2 years. But come on. you're not giving away a roster player. Like if they ask for Suzuki and Caulfield, then there's a debate because you're thinking, okay, you're losing this. Of course, McDavid is McDavid, but now it's just prospects. It's a kind of trade that you usually see in baseball. I remember Juan Soto. When Juan Soto was traded a few years ago by Washington, it was 5 prospects for Juan Soto. And some of them became good players. But the point is, at the time, Juan Soto was an established star or even superstar in MLB. So I understand the point about, emptying the farm, and I do get it, but it's Connor McDavid.
And look, we're not talking about, like he'd be a really good 2C, the best player in the world. And Snake, to Sly Daddy's point and question, in the scenario that he brought up, he clearly mentioned that McDavid wants to play in Montreal, right?
Yes.
In this scenario where McDavid goes to Stan Bowman and says, this is the only team I'll play for, and you cannot deplete them of their best players because I want to win a cup with them, then I understand the trade proposals. I understand if it's only futures and the Edmonton Oilers are handcuffed. However, I don't think that'll be the situation.
Well, in Los Angeles, when Wayne Gretzky was traded, it was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky didn't want the team to be depleted. So there were 3 first-round picks. And, of course, there was the money, and we all know what happened, with the owner. But let's only talk hockey here. Wayne Gretzky didn't want the team to be depleted. And I remember that Luc Robitaille was supposed to be part of the deal. But they said no, because he's a goal scorer. He's the perfect complement to Gretzky. But they still had to give away 20-year-old Jimmy Carson, who has scored 55 goals. So that's why I say that the team that acquires McDavid will have to give away something big. Either in terms of prospects or either in terms of at least one star, one established star.
Yeah. Listen, it's...
Look, I'm not big on trade speculations. And I've said this before,
this one's hard to do as well.
But the reason why I don't mind talking about McDavid is that it is really within the realm of possibilities.
Oh, it could have happened.
McDavid be traded.
Yeah.
And there are not many teams that will be able to match what Edmonton wants for him. That's the only reason why I talk about this. Because we all these speculation, trade Kapanen for this and that. I'm like, okay, make the trade and then I'll comment. But I'm making an exception for McDavid because it's going to be fascinating what's going to happen in Edmonton. If he gets traded, I would be surprised if it were this summer. But I think if the Edmonton Oilers, again, are eliminated in the first round and McDavid is like, bye-bye, I'm not signing an extension, I think he's gone, just like Wayne Gretzky was gone, because Wayne Gretzky, let's recall, had 1 year left on his contract. He was a rental player, believe it or not. So McDavid will become a rental player next year. And when he signs his next contract, he's going to be 31. Now, is there a risk signing McDavid for 7 years? Yeah, there is. How much will he want? That's the thing. Will he want like 20 million? And but if he's willing to take like 14, let's say, and the cap goes up, look, we'll see. But it's going to be fascinating. One thing that's also going to be fascinating that I think we should talk about in the next few weeks, Macklin Celebrini's contract.
Oh my God.
He's eligible for an extension this year. He doesn't have to sign it this summer. Connor Bedard did not sign it last year. But now Celebrini is eligible for an extension that would start in 2027. The number, the cap is at 104. So basically he could get $20.8 million max per year. I think if he settles for 15, 16, or even 17 like Kaprizov did, I think San Jose has a good deal. The question is now, will he sign for 8 years? Because the last summer that he can sign for 8 years, then it goes down to 7. Or will he just want to sign for 5 years? Like Austin Matthews did. And then you only buy 1 year a free agency, because it's the first 7 years he's under club control. And then years 8, 9, 10, 11, etc. It's free agency years. That costs a lot of money. The cap going up, because as a 25-year-old Celebrini as a free agent could probably get at the time $28 million. But there's always the risk of underperforming, which I doubt, but injuries, which you never know. The guy has like 3-4 concussions and he's finished. So he has to think of these things too.
Yeah, you can't plan for that stuff. And look, Celebrini, I mean, you're seeing what he's doing at the World Championship. Yeah. Sure, you have Sidney Crosby feeding you, but I mean, come on. Like, what he accomplished this season, pretty remarkable stuff. So yeah, he's going to get paid. I wouldn't mind being his agent right now. It's going to be a nice little bonus for Christmas. Anyways, Snake, I think we covered it all today. Or did we miss anything? Do you have any parting words for the people?
Well, I think Monday is probably going to be the time to...
Season recap.
It's either going to be season recap for the Habs or commenting
Game
on
7.
Game 7. World Championships, Memorial Cup recap. It's recap time, and then draft time.
Exciting stuff. And preview of the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Maybe the least exciting matchup in recent memory. Snake, I'm sorry. I can't get excited for this one. But nonetheless, that's the one we got. Thanks a lot, Gary, for your playoff format. But congratulations to the teams for making it there. For Simon the Snake Bavard, I'm producer Shayne. Thank you to producer Jimmy, as always. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you all Monday. Take care.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.